And ho ho ho! Hey everyone, welcome to a very comic basey Christmas show. I'm your host Pete Beckford, and apparently this just a couple announcements we'll get to in the whole thing, and then we'll do the big announcement. Thank you everyone who's joining us from points far afield. Thank you to everyone on Twitter and everyone. I'm sorry, X. I'm not sure how you do that whole thing, but anyway, yeah. So we've got some exciting stuff to do here. We're probably going to be slightly less chatty than usual in the whole thing, but I do want to get the saying hi to folks, going before we get too far into it all. First of all, I want to say thank you very much to our moderator, producer, etc. Mr. Greg Hack is here, keeping the whole place running. Thank you. Goodness gracious, everyone. And thank you also for noting all the comic folks who passed this year. It's a sad list of really great folks out there, but they will all be very much missed. Anyway, Mike Beam, welcome. Glad you could join us. Oro Viejo, welcome from Minnesota. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Take that back. He's on an Amtrak train in the middle of Montana. Whoa. Rob Weinberg's joining us from Toledo. And so, yeah, we're going to push on forward with things. So, got an interesting call a while back that sort of put me into a new way of thinking about something that we've been doing for I think 17 years, and it actually made me think, maybe we should, I don't know, redo our entire product line. That was sort of the too long didn't read version of what we'll be saying here. But let's go into some other bad news of the year first on the whole thing. It goes something like this. So you guys might have seen this graph we've been putting up over the years. Let me make sure it gets onto the program feed, which is right there. This is the U.S. comic book variance over time. The blue graph that's ever so slightly higher than the orange graph is the number of comic books published in a given year. The orange graph is the number of variants published per year. Now, the numbers for 2024 are not completely in yet, so take this one as advisory only right now. But you might have noticed that starting around 1995 or so, both lines started taking a dramatic turn up. It wasn't so much they were publishing a lot more comic books, we were publishing a lot more versions of the same comic book. Another updated version of that graph, which I'll throw on the screen right now. This is the percentage of variance over time. This one is updated as of this month. I just did that and posted to Twitter just now. By the way, if you're thinking of it, please follow us on Twitter. I'm at Comic Software. For reasons that are long and obscure, there's a lovely old person from very, very long ago had taken ComicBase. So we are at Comic Software. If you'd like to follow us on Twitter, very much recommend it. But this is the percentage of comics that in a given month there are variants. And as you'll see right now, we are currently running 88.5% of all comic books in the country are variants, which, putting it another way, is to say that for every regular comic book that's been published, there are 7.7 in some decimal versions of variants for that comic, which again, it's a bit of a misleading figure because we've made this so crazy in that most comics, and that's very clever of me, I put myself right over the graph, but most comic books published these days don't actually have a regular edition anymore. It's all variants all the way down. It's just like all turtles all the way down. So I had kind of an interesting call come in several weeks ago, and it sort of made me think, this variant thing we keep talking about, I wonder if it's had any effects on the world of comics as we know it. And the guy was basically just calling up, wanted quick help on something. He was just trying to look up an issue of a very common comic book, the 1990 Todd McFarlane Spider-Man series. He had a version of it, and I thought, oh, I know what's going on with this guy. I'll help him out. He's looking at the demo, and I'll be in and out of this call in 5 minutes. It'll be great. And what I saw was a little bit shocking. Now, granted, this came back in 1990, was when this comic series came out. We formed kind of the breakdown of our current product line not a lot of years after that. It's, maybe 1997. And it was just a different world, if you remember that graph of when the variants all kind of went nuts. So back in 1990, Spider-Man was a little bit of a controversial comic book. It was by a very hot artist at the time. And it was controversial because they'd done not one, but five, can you believe it? Different versions of the same comic book. I mean, they had ones that were bagged, ones that were a newsstand, ones that came with, other special stuff. And there was even a platinum edition, which nobody knew how to get. But it was crazy. It's like they thought, well, clearly we have seen the peak of crazy variant stuff over all time. And I thought, okay, I know the score on this one. He's a little confused here. He's probably looking at the green newsstand cover, which is the issue number 1 that we included with the demo. He just wants to know which one is his other one. Yep, a little bit more reading is involved for that particular issue. But then I looked at what we had on screen here, and I realized, hey, I haven't gone back to this particular series myself for a little while. And this is what it looks like today. There are actually, not only is there a million different copies of issue number 1 out there for Spider-Man, they made a -1 issue, and that has variants. They went back to press with it and did various commemorative editions. At this point, I believe there's something like 20 different variants of Spider-Man number 1. And this was mind-boggling. Now, especially at the time, we didn't, with the free and the express editions of ComicBase, we didn't include cover artist as part of these standard notes. We would have notes what the different editions were, but it wasn't, exactly easy to figure out what was what on the whole thing. And I got to say, looking at this poor guy who's looking at the demo, and me thinking very, optimistically, it's like, oh no, this will be a piece of cake. It's obviously the oh crap, which cover is it? And I had to do quite a bit of reading to figure out which edition it was. This was the days before barcodes. You didn't have barcodes on your comic book, so you couldn't just scan the comic book and go to the right place like you would these days. He wasn't using the archive edition. Now, a lot of you folks, I'm sure, and me and our staffers, we're using the archive edition every day of our lives. I mean, we decided long ago that having that variant reference was really, really helpful in our lives. At some point, back in 1992 or so, we decided that every single comic book that we ever encounter, we're going to scan it, and try to save it in our art library, whether we got room to publish it or not. This eventually became when DVDs came out, this became the archive edition of ComicBase, because we finally had a medium that was so big we could put all that data someplace. And then that later became dual layer DVDs, and it became multiple DVDs. Then Blu-ray came out. We were the first product to ever ship on Blu-ray for the PC. Then we were first one to ship on dual layer Blu-ray, then dual Blu-rays and so forth. And so we got to the point now, over 32 years later, where we have just an enormous art library, 1.1 million comic books, and we've been really happy living our life in this modern variant, heavy age of ours, with all that at our fingertips. I mean, that's been great. But wow, oh wow, oh wow. If you're just a poor guy looking for Spider-Man at this point, even if we've given you the equivalent of an Overstreet price guide, and actually probably about 5 times the data of an Overstreet price guide, with all that detail, without the photo reference, you're kind of hosed. And this really bugged me. I got to admit, it was something where, I think I figured out that at this point in the time, it's not enough to know the issue number anymore. I mean, as a matter of fact, knowing the issue number is darn near useless in today's series, today's age. Now, another thing that's different about the world of 1990 or 1992 when we started ComicBase and today is, I said, well, surely it's Spider-Man, it's just a one-off. Let's look at the Avengers. And even Avengers, they've gone back to press a million times on all the old issues. So, well, okay, how about the second in the series? And then it becomes an issue of like, well, are you talking the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth? What series of Avengers are you even talking about? And name the character, name Batman, Nightwing, Daredevil, Captain America, etc. At this point, they've gone back to press so many times and done so many variants of everything that, all the reference that we would include in these lower end versions of ComicBase to help you find where you're going and say, oh, well, this is the 1993 series. So clearly, if I'm holding issue number 5 of the 1993 series, it must be this one right here. That just doesn't hold up anymore. I mean, it did back when we started it, but man, in 2024, you're in a world of hurt. And so I thought, well, we got a bit of a pickle on our hands. So what are we going to do about this? Because, we're a company where we've got one outstanding version of ComicBase, is the archive edition. It is literally the finest comic software that man has ever had to organize their comic collection with. And honestly, I don't think I'm bragging when I say that. I don't think there's anything close. But the starter editions of ComicBase, the free, which is basically a demo, the express edition, which was meant to be the cut down version. Think of it like an Overstreet price guide at your fingertips, which you then could very quickly enter your comic books into. And then the professional edition, which is much more sophisticated, has a lot more internet capabilities, ability to do mobile stuff with it, custom fields, all sorts of analytical stuff. I mean, this is great tools and everything, and they have incredible amounts of data with them. But damn, without the cover reference, they're just not getting it done anymore. And so I thought, well, what do? Do we just kind of axe the lower end products, just make everything the archive edition? Or is there something we can do to help out the folks who are just kind of getting started, the people who are just either checking out the program for the first time to see what they want, or frankly, if it's your kid, you might know that, ComicBase Free has its name because it is free. We think of it as it's the demo, but honestly, if you're just someone getting started out in comic books, and we figured, like, unless you've got 500 comic books or more, unless you've got at least a couple, 3 long boxes of comic books, you don't owe us a dime to use our software. And so you could just download the whole thing. When we were partnered with Comic Buyers Guide at the time, they were not entirely happy with this whole thing because so Bickford, aren't you just kind of giving away our standard catalog for nothing along with your software? And it's like, well, you could look at it that way. It's like, but yeah, that's basically what we're doing. The idea being that, look, until you have enough comic books to have a problem was so succinctly put, you're not going to spend a dime on any of your comic software. So we're not going to worry about too much. We're going to let you get started with the whole thing. And then once you've worked up enough comic books on the whole thing, you're going to get to that 500th comic book and you say, okay, maybe I'll kick in a few bucks now and actually, pay the few people who make the program. But until then, we weren't going to worry about it. And then the Express and the Pro and everything, lots more capability, lots more things. But again, even though we added much more cover reference, we have the art, the issue number 1s now for over 84,000 titles. So, we can certainly help you find that obscure series that you want, if you know what the issue number 1 looks like, or if you have a general idea of it. But damn, finding the variants, it really kind of requires a barcode, or it requires just a lot of squinting at little tiny type to get that done. And honestly, we just thought, yeah, we don't want to leave the situation that way. So we sat down with the team. We really put our thinking caps on the whole thing. And this, I guess, is the thinking cap. And we thought, well, what can we do? And this is what we came up with. Well, as we said right now, the free version is kind of like an Overstreet price guide that you can put your stuff into and it costs you nothing. Well, we thought, let's make that a little bit better. And there's going to be a new free version, and it's going to look something like this. So ComicBase Free, and let's drill into the new specs of ComicBase Free, has the following. It's going to have information, current pricing for 1.25 million comic books, that's just like today. But something is very new. We have never done this before. It's going to include also 100,000, over 100,000 really, actually much more than 100,000 cover reference thumbnails from Marvel and DC. So in addition to this, and honestly, I am under bragging about what we're doing here. Let me put myself on screen here. I actually asked our marketing folks, it's like, how do we want to describe the exact number of photos that we've got here? Because it consists of some 84,000 number 1 images from every series, over 9,000 different publishers, but almost every comic series that's been published since 1878. We've got you a picture of the number 1 issue. And we also have over 100,000 Marvel and DC images. And the directive that came down from marketing is, just tell them we got over 100,000 Marvel and DC. They'll get the idea. So that's what we're going to have, and it comes built right in. Now, we want to make this clear. The images we have are quite small. They're just enough, they're just enough there so you can look down the grid and see all the information on the whole thing, and know which issue you're looking at very quickly. So to give you an idea what that looks like, let me bounce over to ComicBase Free over on the demo machine. And this is what Spider-Man looks like today. So you saw the picture before. So let me go ahead and whip these up for comparison's sake. This is what Free looked like before, and this is what Free looks like. Whoops, wrong. This is what Free looks like now. Now, you'll probably notice a couple of other subtle differences on the whole thing, other than the fact that for every single issue of Spider-Man, you can now go down the list and see what every single one of these covers looks like. Now, again, I could wish that the covers were a little bigger, a little prettier, etc., but this is enough to get it done. If you're trying to figure out, which of the 70 million variants, here's the second printing cover, there's, there's, etc. This is enough to like put you on your way to finding the right comic book. And we've provided this for basically every Marvel and every DC comic book up until this week, and it's comes just built in with the program. The other thing that we've done, excellent. Windows system updates. Great. Another thing we've done is we started filling in, and this was something that in the Express version, we never used to talk much about, but we started filling in the cover artists. And I don't know if we actually didn't have anyone call us and mention they'd noticed this, but starting last week, if you are an Express user of ComicBase, there's creator credits that are much expanded in the Pro editions and the Archive editions that you're not used to getting. You never used to get the inkers and the storylines and things like that. But starting last week, every version of ComicBase started getting the cover artist. That's built in, it's free, and you got it automatically last week. So if you download last week's update, that just came down with the package for the first time ever if you're using the Express edition. All right, let's run back down there. Let's go over the rest of the features for ComicBase free here. And again, this is the demo version of ComicBase. So 1.25 million comic listings with the current prices, over 100,000 cover reference thumbnails, really close to 200,000 when you add them all up. It lets you buy and sell on Atomic Avenue. Buying is obviously easy, but it's very easy for posting your stuff to it on your own online store if you so wish to. And it handles up to 500 comic books. So it'll give you a count as you're entering your book collection. And when you get to that 500th comic book, it's going to tell you, all right, that's no mas. That's the end of the road. It's time to kind of decide whether you're in or out on the whole thing and move up to the full version. But the price on this one is remarkable. It is free. Just like the name says, you pay nada, zilch, zip. It is gratis, entirely on us. And that's our demo version. So if you're keeping score at home, basically we start out by giving you the equivalent of a standard catalog of comic books for nothing. Now we're making a standard catalog of comic books and about 10 of the Ernie Gerber photo reference guides thrown in, and again for the low price of nothing. So Merry Christmas from us. That is what we are doing. All right, so it begs an obvious question on the other hand. Well, all right, great, you just made it so we have 100,000 cover reference photos for the free guys. How about those people of us who've actually been paying for your software all this time, Bickford? Well, we weren't going to leave you hanging either. And so let me tell you what we're going to be doing for you. So the next step up is ComicBase Express. And this one, you'll notice it has a few more covers than the free one. Specifically, it has the same 1.25 million comics listed, but it has over 200,000 cover reference thumbnails from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, IDW, Dynamite, and Boom. Not coincidentally, the most variant-heavy publishers of today. So when you're looking for all those Red Sonja variants or all those Vampirella variants, you're wondering what the heck which one am I looking at? This one will handle that for you. Another thing it'll do here is this one has no limits on the size of the collection. It's unlike the demo version, the free version, you can enter as many comic books as you want to this whole thing. One of our customers has the world's largest comic book collection, so yes, there's no practical limit to how far that goes. Another thing this one does is it includes a free year of price, title, content, and program updates for a year with the price of the program. Now, it's worth noting, there's very much, when we're trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we give more stuff to the low-end guys to be able to deal with the variants and the whole thing? One of the things that we were really concerned about is there's an easy answer, right? The easy answer that's easy and in our minds wrong is we say, okay, well, we just make it so the program, it's online and it shuts down after they've, they can pay us like $5 a month or something, but then, as soon as they stop paying us, then we just kind of hold on to their data and they can't access it. And we basically, at that point, would be like every other scummy online play that's in the market at the low end, where your data is hostage. I mean, if your data is no longer under your control when you stop paying your credit card payment to the guys who are doing it, then do you really own your data is really the operant question on this whole thing. And for pretty much all of our low-end competition, frankly, for all of our high-end competition, the answer really has been like, yeah, no, I mean, it's easier for us to serve you because we get your credit card. And the second you stop paying us that $5 or $8 or $12 a month or whatever it is, your data kind of goes into suspense or it goes away. We have never been comfortable with that. I mean, it's always been something that just from the word go, we always thought that, look, when you track your comics, your collection, that is a serious investment of your time. And it's just, that data has to stay yours. It has to be outside of the control of some company, even the guys who sold you the program, however well-meaning, whatever the whole thing is, but that data needs to be yours. Now, the way we do this with ComicBase is we use the internet to be able to extend your reach. So, I mean, basically the data lives on your computer. It's always under your control. But if you want to post it up to our servers for backup purposes, that's a thing. When you want to get downloads, from new updates of content and pricing, things like that, that happens automatically every week. That's another great thing. This is a great use of the internet. But the whole very critical point of the whole thing is, if at the end of that year, so we're going to give you a year of free updates, but if we haven't convinced you at the end of that year that we're the best things since sliced bread, or frankly, if money's getting a little tight, or it just doesn't feel like, just not into collecting that much, whatever the thing is, if you said, I just don't feel like renewing this year, nothing changes for you. The only thing that changes for you about when you launch the program and you want to look at your collection is if it says, oh yeah, there's an update available, but your subscription's expired, so we can't give you the update. But all your stuff is still there. It's still all yours. It still works. You can still print out lists. You can still do every function of the program that doesn't involve our servers, and it's all completely under control. And we always wanted to make that the case. So that's something that we very much did when we are devising these ways of giving more power to the low-end versions, is frankly, just the second that you pay for, or even don't pay for the free version, but the second you pay for your ComicBase Express or whatever else, we're just going to give you a couple 300,000 images right then and there. And if we haven't earned your business again next year and the whole thing, you keep it. It's yours. So yeah, that's the deal. So anyway, you might also be asking, hey, you just gave me the photo reference that's as big as was found in the first 5 editions of the archive edition. So the price, right? It's obviously getting much larger, right? No, we're not going to do that either. So the price is still $69.95. It's a little bit, it's about the cost of a comic book a month. And if you want to update next year, hopefully we've definitely earned your business by that point. Another $5 a month will, keep you going next year, and you won't need to do all the data entry. We'll keep you up with all the pricing, all the new program updates that happen during the whole time. You get that all as part of the package. So we think it's absolutely an extraordinary deal, and we hope you enjoy it. And that is the new one. We're calling it ComicBase Express Plus. We're not particularly creative on the whole thing, but we couldn't just call it ComicBase Express because ComicBase Express came with about 15,000 pictures. ComicBase Express Plus comes with really well over 200,000. It's kind of a big deal. So we thought we'd throw that in. All right, what's next? Well, then again, what about the Pro? Well, the Pro has more pictures. So the Pro is the one that's meant for you when you've been going for a while and you're getting pretty good at this whole collecting thing. You probably want some more advanced program features. You want mobile support. You want some of the things like that. But you also are probably a wider collector and so forth. We give you a lot more data, and we give it to you with a lot more ability to work with the data. So let's start with what the rundown of the Pro features is now. And once again, we're unimaginably calling this one ComicBase Professional Plus now. So ComicBase Professional Plus, it comes with much extended pricing and creator information on over 1.25 million comic books, as well as over 3 million books, magazines, and newspapers. We are including all sorts of creator fields, storylines, character cross-references, things like that were not part of the more basic versions. So you can really drill down into any part of comic history. Basically, every comic book since 1878. Pretty much is going to be in there, and we're continually filling in foreign series and things like that weren't in there before, or anything that slipped through the cracks. It was quite literally the biggest database of comic books going, and it's all on your desktop, so it makes it very easy for you to manage your collection. We're including over 300,000 cover reference thumbnails from Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, Image, IDW, Boom, Dynamite, Dell, Fawcett, Gold Key, Archie, Atlas, Titan, and more. I had to say more because I was running out of space. Those are the big ones, but remember, we also include all the #1 issues of the other people. Now, what things does it not include in there? Things like Fleetway quality, so if you have a real or DC Thompson and Company, if you want to see the picture reference for every issue of of Commando, that's not in the Pro Edition. But conveniently, those guys aren't publishing a million variants of every issue of Commando either. So this is really meant there so that if you have any kind of normal comic book that people would have been collecting there's almost certainly photo reference for it. At the very least, you're going to be able to easily figure out what is going on with the whole thing, know its value, be able to quickly enter it in your collection, and move on with your life. Now, it also does, it's a big feature update over the Express version. The Express version is meant to be the easy one. This one, it has batch barcode scanning for, entering your books. You can, I was entering my books earlier on today. You literally say add by barcode, get out your handy dandy barcode scanner, and just beep it just like you're at the cash register. Speaking of which, one thing that we didn't put on the slide here is it also has the ability to have a cash register. So if you're selling books and you just want to set up a stand somewhere, or you've got a simple store that you want to work it that way, you can also beep them out of your inventory as well. There's a built-in POS system. There are custom fields. There's, a million other power user features, importing, exporting in different formats, all sorts of reports and so forth that are part of this more advanced version. But critically, and this is something that I always got a little sad when people would, they buy ComicBase and they've clearly got a big collection, but they had the barcode scanner and they didn't buy Archive. And before it was like, oh man, you're going to want to upgrade to Archive soon. You'd know it. And this makes it so that, it's not as crazy to buy the Pro now, because again, that photo reference is just so key. Now, of course, I'm not going to tell you your crazy upgrade to the Archive Edition, because the Archive Edition is terrific. It's what we use every day here. The Archive Edition, the features are pretty much, think about all the power you've got in the Pro, but we also add on to that 1.1, almost, just a few under 1.1 million comics at full size. Now, that is a big difference between this one and the previous ones that you were beforehand. You were looking at those, kind of, little thumbnails, which are fine for identifying things. But let's face it, they're just not as cool as looking at the whole comic book. And what we've been doing over the last 32 years, like I say, is we've been scanning every single comic book that has gone through our hands, every collating scans that people have sent to us, and so forth. And we basically amassed an art library that, if you were going straight off of our servers, it's something north of 800 gigabytes of data. But we boiled that down on the Archive Edition onto what, if you want it in that format, is 4 DVDs worth of pictures. But the better way to go is actually these days is just install it, and it'll automatically install the thumbnails for you. And the second you interact with any of them, just the merest touch on any of them will instantly download the full-sized, full-color version of that same graphic up to 1080p resolution. And that way you actually get the best of both worlds, is that anytime you're actually looking at anything in particular, you're looking at the prettiest image that we could possibly have served you up on the whole thing. At the same time, you're not eating up all your disk space. And so it's really kind of a clever trick. And honestly, that trick is the thing that allowed us to kind of move that trick downstream and give us some of the power to the Express and the Pro and the free users. They got to benefit from some of that technology. The difference is they don't get the big pictures. They have the thumbnails. So again, it does what it needs to do, but it's not nearly as pretty as looking at the full thing. Another thing that's different between all the other versions in the Archive Edition is the Archive Edition lets you download new pictures either on demand. If you're just walking on with a new computer, you just want to say, I just want to download all the Batman. You can just highlight all the Batman, say download, and pull down just those. But the other thing it does is every week, there are typically about 2,000 new pictures that come out, and you get those as part of the weekly download. And so as new comics come out, you're always kept up to date with everything. Now, if you're really, really clever on the whole thing, you'll notice that this is $259, and so you say, well, it's only $110 different than the Pro. It used to be more, right? And yeah, it used to be. Before the archive edition would list for $2.99. Various weird and historic reasons for that. But and one of the open secrets that we've had since we started doing the archive edition. Remember, we were the first guys to ship on DVD-ROM in this space, and we were the very first PC program to ship on Blu-ray. Is we were always thinking with when we first set these things up, that these were like really avant-garde technologies. Not a lot of people had them. But if you were going to come from the main program that we were working with at that point was basically the equivalent of Pro today, that if you had that one, well, we're going to give you about 5 times as much stuff as you'd have before. Well, we got to charge you something more for the whole thing. But we thought, well, what's the right number? Well, we don't want to charge you $500 for it. Well, okay, we'll make it $2.99. And we thought, well, $2.99, okay, that's a lot of money. It's a substantial investment. Now, granted, if you total up your comic book collection, you'll realize that's a real substantial investment. And obviously, your time is more than any of this. But the big one on that one is we thought, it is a substantial investment, but what'd be great is if we could make it about $100 to upgrade from the Pro to the archive. And so for the longest time, really since we started doing the archive edition, there's been this fluke in our system where it was actually cheaper to buy the Pro and upgrade to the archive edition than it was to just buy the archive edition. And we would point this out to people on like the live stream and stuff. Actually, if you want to save a few bucks, you could do that move. We don't mind. But it was all based around that whole idea that what we really want to do is we want to get you upgraded to that archive edition, because the archive edition is still, to this day, it represents our best work. It's really the way that we want. It's the way we look at the program every day. It's the way we want you to look at the program every day. So we've kept it so even though the list price was higher, the upgrade price was really pretty affordable. It's like $40 more than just upgrading the regular data for just the pricing. So we're going to keep that going, but we are going to actually lower the after all this stuff. We do want to make it easier to move from level to level, and we are actually going to lower the list price of the archive edition. So it's going to be $259 now if you're buying it new. It's still $129 as an upgrade, and there might be sales going on. Just might check that site pretty quickly, but we are going to keep that going. At the top of the line, we have the 4K archive edition. Now, this is the latest entry into our world here. It used to be called the Blu-ray archive edition because it shipped on Blu-ray. This one, basically, it's all about 4K images. If you have a 4K monitor and you just want to see these comic books in just pure eye candy, so we're talking well over hundreds of thousands of 4K UHD covers, really beautiful, and beyond that, delivered at the highest possible quality. So the idea is it's not just the resolution you've got to play with, but we also wanted to be able to use that enormous, disk space that, Blu-rays had to be able to dial down the compression artifacts. I mean, whenever you compress a picture, it always picks up some noise. And we wanted to make these things as pristine as we could get them. And we actually had so many over time that it actually got hard to switch. We couldn't fit them onto a single Blu-ray, and we had to put it on 2. And nowadays, it's hard to fit on 2. The way, again, I would advise, pretty much everyone is, when you have the 4K archive edition, just run the quick install, because again, it does that magic where it installs the thumbnails, but then the second you interact with any particular thumbnail, anything that where you click it, you use it, you check its graph, you do anything at all with it, it's downloaded the 4K UHD version, and again at a quality that's much higher than we ever could have squished onto those Blu-ray discs. And so you actually, and again, you get the best quality, and you have the least total disk space used. That is I think the ultimate way of looking at your comic book collection. So that is our lineup now. We're changing it all up. So anyway, and there's I want to basically say, it's like, guys, we're going to do everything we can to solve this damn variant problem. It's not something I have overly enjoyed over the years, having there be a million different copies of every comic book. I think it makes collecting hard. And honestly, it just runs up the price of collecting a lot. And I want to get back to just enjoying the comic books that we have. But we have to make it so that no matter what version of ComicBase you're using, that you're able to quickly find the comic books you're trying to enter and get them going as much as possible. So one thing I am a little happy about on this whole thing is I thought, well, while we're giving away, decades of work to people who aren't even necessarily paying for us. The question came up originally. We were like, well, do we give them just selected letters from Marvel and DC? Because I mean, if we just gave them like A and S for Marvel and B and S for DC, that'd still be like 150,000 pictures there, and a very impressive number. And then they could have all their Batman and Superman, but then when they went to Captain America, they'd be like, I'm still lost here. And we decided, nah, hell with it. We're just going to do the whole thing. So yeah, we think this is going to help a lot of folks. I love the idea that our free version is now better than pretty much all the paid versions on the low end of the market. So enjoy that, folks. But more importantly, I want to make it very easy for people to recommend ComicBase to a friend, to get your friends going in with your collection, getting them entered, and really enjoy your get back to enjoying your comics again. I'm going to say a couple quick things from the comments, but then I'm going to get out of here. Let's see here. Checking over creators. Hello, Jet Seed Comics and Tyler T. Welcome, and welcome, Rahila. Free version never had custom fields. Pro custom fields are features of the Pro and up. So let's see here. The free version gets all the cover thumbnails from Marvel and DC. As well as the #1 issues. Beforehand we had a set of, and again, this is one of those things where another thing that worked in our favor over the years is that internet speed's gotten a lot better. One of the things that we were doing when we first rolled out the Express version and the free version is we want to make them so they were a one-shot, simple to install kind of deal. And so we had to be able to bundle the pictures right into the installer in order to make it run as one thing and not have to make you download multiple things or run through multiple installer paths. We've actually gotten to the point now with internet connections getting better and getting much more sophisticated in our install technologies, where you can basically download one piece of software and we don't need to all cram everything into one big installer. As a result, we're not limited to I think it was about 20,000 at the last count pictures that we would shove into the free and the Express versions. Now we can actually give you all the #1s for every single one in the program, as well as all of the Marvel and DCs. So you get that one going. Let's see here. Let's see. Just see, says, I want to go to a parallel universe that has no variant covers of any comics. Yeah, I feel you, buddy. All right, let's see here. And the PSAs for today, basically, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe, please, everybody. That lets people know when we have cool things going on. And also, please, feel free to comment on the live stream. It helps in the algorithm, and we are actually trying to get our marketing game just a little bit more in sync with the algorithms of YouTube and things like that. But if you leave a comment on the channel, it does a lot to get the word out. And also, please do subscribe to us over on the X's or the Twitters or whatever else at Comic Software, because we're trying to post some cool things over there as well. We just posted a breakdown of all the new variant news as well. We also have a dedicated message board on the whole thing, forums.comicbase.com, where you can request live stream topics, as well as a link to Andre's World Famous Comic Base cover catalog, which is still relevant. Sorry, Andre. It's funny. Andre has done more to drive innovation in the Comic Base ecosystem than he will ever know. I mean, he's probably the reason that the program handles newspapers, but it's the idea of the prep work we had to do to get things ready for our own stuff would happen once or twice a year. In order to get it ready for his ComicBase cover catalog, it sort of ramped up again. But we actually upped our game enough that doing this sort of move now basically on a weekly basis is possible. So anyway, I must thank everyone who makes this whole thing possible. And let's see here. Greg also says, if you're a wish list on Atomic Avenue, that was an important announcement, then on the Atomic Avenue forums, go look at that. And that's about it. All right. Well, anyway, guys, I'm going to say goodbye for now. I have an engagement I have to get off to, but I'm going to give you one final Christmas surprise on this whole thing. I just threw a lot of features past y'all, and I just talked about a new thing. I cannot physically, because I'm not magic, I'm not Santa, I cannot push the button to launch things into being, possibly with sale prices in the Christmas spirit. It is impossible for me to do this while I'm on the air with you all. But we have elves, and the elves are working tonight. Have a look at the ComicBase website tomorrow. Have a look at your emails, and I think you're going to find a present you will like very much under the tree. By the way, one thing, if you have ComicBase Express or ComicBase Professional, you will also discover that they are magically transformed tomorrow when this all goes down, and you will see email on this as well. You will find out that there's an update available for you, and when you do, we're going to be loading up your Christmas stockings with a whole bunch of really great stuff, and it will not cost you a dime. Anyway, that's all about it. Merry Christmas from all of us. Hope you have an absolutely terrific one. We might possibly be back here in a couple weeks, but probably not, because the next one is typically on Christmas. Guys, have a terrific one, and I will see you all in the new year. Take care. Bye-bye.